आधे बाउल दही में 4 चम्मच MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला डाला, स्टर करो, पुदीना चटनी तैयार। MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला।
From the Republic Media Network headquarters, it's time for Arnab Goswami on the debate. Arnab Goswami on the debate.
The AI summit is on. The focus is even more on AI, and with this talk of AI boom, jobs going, Vinod Khosla has made a comment which has created further panic in a panic-stricken environment. In my view, not necessary. He's a well-known tech billionaire and venture capitalist. He says IT and BPO services will completely disappear over the next 5 years. And then he says something as prophetic as all jobs will disappear in 50 years. Now, this is not an offhand remark. Vinod Khosla is the founder of Khosla Ventures, established 2004, deep investments in AI, sustainability, medicine, and other technologies. He was also an early backer of OpenAI, and he made a lot of money there. In other words, he's not a casual observer. He's deeply invested financially and ideologically in an AI-driven future. So it is possible that he's used overstatement to make a point that also suits his overall business interests. But you see, the atmosphere is already volatile. Just 5 days ago, TCS shares fell to 5.5-year low. TCS just collapsed. And across India's IT corridors, there is a growing paranoia. Will automation hollow out all services? Will AI wipe out all jobs? Are entry-level jobs all at risk? So when a prominent AI investor like Khosla says that IT and BPO sector will disappear, it amplifies that panic. Khosla is a futurist. He's an attempted futurist. His job is to think in exponential curves. From his vantage point, radical transformation is profitable also. And that perspective naturally skews towards very aggressive forecasts. But to extrapolate that all IT BPO will vanish, all jobs will vanish eventually, is a maximalist Vinod Khosla kind of claim. Now, I believe in a little bit more of an Indian approach, a balanced approach. And earlier today, I spoke to the remarkable tech genius Sridhar Vembu, founder of Zoho Corporation, who we are very proud of, who offered a more grounded view. He acknowledged disruption, and I'm going to be playing out this. He acknowledged disruption, but he emphasized more on adaptation. Now, Sridhar Vembu is the founder of Zoho, homegrown company, hundreds of millions of customers, CRM, finance, workplace tools, all increasingly powered by AI. He was humble enough to say that history is witness to the fact that when a new technology disrupts the job market, many other jobs are also created. So he doesn't take a typical VC, private equity, maximalist, hyper Vinod Khosla kind of approach. He is humble enough to say that he said being a little behind does not mean that we are behind. It actually means that we will get better. And he cited, of course, Sarvam AI as an example of what a moderately sized Indian AI firm can do with scaling up. Personally, I would go, and I think it is better to go with a Sridhar Vembu than a Khosla approach, because if history is any guide, evolution and not extinction is the more natural pattern in India because of what we are as a country. When it comes to modern technology, innovation, in most of the cases, we have not been the first. But at the same time, we have never copy-pasted someone else's model. We have eventually built our own model of technology, innovation that suits our cultural environment and which eventually becomes very competitive. I always give the example, ladies and gentlemen, of the space mission. Remember, when the New York Times mocked us following the success of our Mangalyaan mission, Remember, ladies and gentlemen, how they used to show an elite space club on one side with a man standing with a cow, keeping on knocking on the door as a way to diminish Indian technology in space. And then we became, a few years later, with Chandrayaan-3, the first country to touch the south pole of the moon. And then all these people, as cynics in the West, kept quiet. But more importantly, we did Chandrayaan-3 at only 615 crore rupees, which as that time was said cost less than a blockbuster Hollywood movie. And we completed the Mars mission for under 78 million. It's not about the money. It's about the approach. That is the approach that Sridhar Vembu is talking about. When he is saying, we have speed, we have innovation, we have a unique placement in the global tech map. And so let us bring back that belief as we approach AI. We will build our own model in time. But it is worthwhile to introspect how we can use the present innovation to create. And ladies and gentlemen, the headline, therefore, for me is not just this AI summit. It is India's ability to create jobs on the back of AI, attract investments on the back of AI, democratize technology on the back of AI, and to take it to the last mile of our country. AI, we've done UPI. We'll do much bigger things with AI. It's time to embrace it with the cautious optimism of a Sridhar Vembu. In my way, that is the right way of looking at things. What do you think? Let's debate.
AI, artificial intelligence, is no longer a distant idea or a drawing room conversation. It's here. It's reshaping humanity in real time. Massive layoffs in IT companies, from the Googles abroad to the Infosys at home, signal a phase of structural unemployment, loss of jobs due to rapid change in technology. Vinod Khosla, a US-based Indian-origin venture capitalist, has made the job loss debate hot.
Last year, we announced a $15 billion AI hub in Vizag. This hub will house gigawatt-scale compute and a new international subsea cable gateway. When finished, it will bring jobs and the benefits of cutting-edge AI to people and businesses across India. Building on this, today we are announcing the India-America Connect initiative, which will deliver new subsea cable routes to increase AI connectivity between the US, India, and multiple locations across the Southern Hemisphere. To take advantage of the opportunities this infrastructure creates, we must also invest in people and skilling, which is why we are announcing some of our most ambitious skilling programs yet.
AI will wipe out IT and BPO jobs, he claims in this post. But human history shows every disruption is not the end, but a transformation. Take prompt engineering as an example. Just a few years ago, this job did not exist. Today, knowing how to communicate effectively with AI tools is itself a specialized skill. Even in modern warfare, AI may dominate systems and weapons.
In Arunachal, where I was responsible for security of line of actual control of Tawang and area around, I remember we had developed a small artificial intelligence software, low ability, but when there was an attempt by China, fall attempt.
Yet, you need human brains to run those prompts, agents and transformers. Sridhar Vembu, the toast of India's Atmanirbhar techpreneur community, disagrees with Khosla.
Already AI is now at least 3.5, 4 years in, and a lot of these coding tools are now well into their third or fourth generation now. And I don't think we have lost any meaningful number of jobs. If anything, overall, the number of jobs actually, even in software, has gone up.
Industrial revolution destroyed traditional crafts, yet it created factories, engineers, and global trade. Similarly, AI will impact white-collar jobs, no doubt. But new roles will emerge. Managing AI, training AI, building with AI itself will open new frontiers.
Ladies and gentlemen, India is hosting the AI Impact Summit 2026. And this is happening for the first time anywhere in the global south. And therefore, the focus is also on how AI has its own future in the global south, and it will no longer remain the prerogative or the right of the Western Europe, or more specifically, the United States of America anymore. I have always wanted to have a session with Sridhar Vembu. Personally, for me, I call him a legend. He's not just a founder of Zoho, but he's a tech visionary. And I'm taking a break, Sridhar, from the usual format of my program today to make this more a knowledge session, because there's a lot of talk about AI, you know. And there's so much conversation, and then the people who are consuming all this content are going from this way to that. Youngsters get apprehensive. You know, people who are building reasonably good, well-founded companies, you know, are suddenly saying that will we be able to compete with companies who have billions of dollars in investment? So there's a lot of confusion. So may I use this occasion to clear the confusion with you, Sridhar, because you're neither this way nor that. You're very balanced in your approach. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Arnab. Vanakkam, namaste.
Yeah.
So you talked about confusion. I think you can say not going this way or that way also is a kind of confusion in a way.
Yes. So my first question to you, Sridhar, is this, that, you know, you had tech billionaire and venture capitalist Vinod Khosla's comment going viral today. Your comment has also gone viral. I'll come to that just after this. But his comment is that all IT or BPO services will disappear. And in the next 4 or 5 years, everything will disappear. But more alarmingly, he said that there will be no jobs. I think 30, 40, 50 years down the line. Did you see that? I mean, it makes a good headline, but is that the truth? What's your take?
Let me first state for upfront that nobody can really know what's the truth here. This truth has to be experienced over time. So that is neither he nor I can know truly that, for example, all jobs are going to be displaced or whatever. But I will state that past technology revolutions, where many jobs were actually destroyed. For example, take the Industrial Revolution, textile weaving jobs were destroyed. But we created a lot more other jobs. Even in textiles, fashion industry was born, and a lot of other things, dyeing, and a lot of things around textiles were born that you could not have imagined when the first machines were invented. In a similar way, I would say that even in AI revolution, maybe that directly when you program something or what you're manipulating with spreadsheets, those jobs may get transformed. I don't even want to say go away, towards more customer facing, work with the customer to solve a problem, that kind of job. But I don't know that they entirely go away, and for a very good reason. We have to ask, who is doing the buying and selling eventually? If our AI, robots, all that are going to do the buying and selling and enjoying the products, are humans going to do it? Is the economy for humans, or is it for AI? And if the answer is humans will be in control, then ultimately the human economy will dominate. Humans will also be serving other humans and getting paid for it.
You also shared in your tweet, I completely agree with you on that. You know, at the end of the day, we've become so carried away with the AI discussion. Sometimes we believe that we are going to be replaced, and I don't see that happening. But you shared a 5-step framework to help professionals and leaders navigate the threat that AI poses to white-collar jobs. And your post was in response, I think, to a tweet by London School of Economics professor Luis Garisano, who's argued that many professional jobs cannot be fully automated because they are quote-unquote messy and require complex judgment. So you are saying that we're still in stage 1 or 2 about AI's impact on companies and jobs. Can you tell us a little bit more about this? You know, what makes you so sure? You see, if it was anyone else, it would be something else. But what makes Sridhar Vembu so sure that white-collar jobs will not be taken away?
I would state it this way. If already AI is now at least 3.5, 4 years in, and a lot of these coding tools are now well into their third or fourth generation now. And I don't think we have lost any meaningful number of jobs. If anything, overall, the number of jobs actually, even in software, has gone up. And even in the US, by the way, even in the US. So, and definitely in India too. So at least so far, the evidence is that jobs have not gone away. And then there is a second thing. There is, tens of millions of businesses out there that actually require help navigating this transformation. How do I best use these tools? Helping them navigate the transition itself are jobs. And so those kind of jobs get created. I mean, a good example, right? When the internet emerged, the World Wide Web emerged, a lot of people became, they set up websites for other companies. Those are still jobs. There are companies, small companies in small towns in India, from Tiruvannamalai or Indore or anywhere, that people are actually working in these jobs where they set up websites, all of that. In a similar way, they could transition themselves to helping companies worldwide take advantage of the best AI tools maybe for a marketing campaign, maybe for setting up an app, all of this. So the jobs will change their character. And here India has an advantage. We have a youthful workforce that is very easily able to absorb all of this. I have programmers. Within like 3 days, they picked up these AI tools and they were very productive with it. 3 days. So that is that is what youth confers. On the other hand, you hear a lot of angst in the West because the workforce is broadly middle-aged and above about, hey, at this age, do I really need to learn all of this new stuff? How many times are you going to disrupt me? That sentiment is there. But somebody who's like 23 or 24, that's not their problem. They just go pick it up and learn. So for these reasons, I'm particularly optimistic about India.
So you've always believed, and you have defied, global expectations by being a bootstrapped $1 billion plus, many $1 billion plus revenue company fighting with Salesforce, Microsoft. So you've shown that it is possible to do things in a Bharatiya way, in an Indian way. And that's what makes you unique. That's why I'm having this chat with you, Sridhar, because we hear only from the tech bros of USA otherwise. You're the best tech bro that India has. And therefore, in a way, what you're saying would make a lot of sense to people watching my program in India. So you said at the India AI Summit that we are investing a lot in a lot of the smaller models. They should be unglamorous right now, but they get the job done. And then you further said that this is going to be the norm in India, where a lot of smaller, resource-efficient, energy-efficient models happen, and then we scale up over time as the costs decline. Yeah. And most importantly, you admitted that right now we are rapidly deploying AI in the software development. We are seeing massive productivity gains in it. So if I take all of this together, it appears to me, Sridhar, that you are working on a unique model that is better applicable in an Indian setting, considering our demography, our locally available talent, and our ability to punch above our weight in terms of working hard. Am I getting this right? I mean, are you trying to evolve something? Are people like you trying to evolve something where AI becomes more India applicable AI, and then we compete with the world? Can you explain how this will happen?
Yeah, right after my keynote, Sarvam AI launched a whole bunch of models built for India, translating across languages. Really beautiful work they have done. I think you should actually also talk to them.
No, by the way, Sridhar, I just on an aside, do you know this? Pratyush was here, and he came here 2 weeks back to our campus, and then he came with a bunch of his engineers, and last time in the budget speech, Nirmala Sitharaman's speech was live, translated with very little latency time into Hindi and Kannada on our sister network. So we are working with them.
Very nice, very nice. I'm so glad to hear it. So that's an example of very useful productive innovation done at scale at a very low cost. It's a price point we can afford, right? That's an example. And we have, every time we go to the airport, the whole Digi Yatra, all of that. Then every time we make a payment through UPI, these are technologies that have now become ubiquitous in India, yet on a much lower cost footprint. In fact, UPI is a very good example where the entire payment network in India costs a few $100 million to run. The corresponding Western networks are tens of billions, maybe closer to 100 billion to run. They have at least 50 billion to run. So that's the scale problem we are talking about. So we are able to get this done. See, the UPI solves a problem at a much lower cost footprint. And similar way, I believe AI, the same way it will arrive in India, it'll be everywhere. And just like UPI or any of these, we will take it for granted. We won't even notice them. They're doing us valuable service. And like, for example, this interview would be live, listened to in Tamil and all the languages. Nobody will think twice about it at that point. That's what I think will happen about AI.
Okay, so simple question. For Sarvam to get where it has, and it has a very proud IIT Madras base with the great Professor Kamakoti also inspiring them. In fact, he connected us to them first. But are you saying that for a American model to reach the level that Sarvam has today, and you have seen what they have presented at the AI Impact Summit, it would have taken much more capital, or the route would have been different?
They definitely take a lot more capital. And it is also, see, there is an analogy earlier. If you look at cars made in America versus cars made in Japan, the Japanese cars were always much more fuel efficient and much more resource efficient.
Yes.
Okay, this was always true. I think we are going to see a similar thing in this digital technology, AI, all of it. We will put up much more efficient technology. And this is a big issue today because the data centers needed to run these are running into billions of dollars, gigawatts of power. So we need resource efficient, capital efficient models, systems. And that, I believe, India has a unique advantage in creating them.
Now, I want to also address, so if there's a young person watching today, Sridhar, and their question would be that, should we change the direction of our education, our purpose, our applied profession? Should we panic when we hear stories about, IT, BPO going away, all applications going away, zero jobs, etc.? Should young people change their approach? Because you said, I was hearing you said that with our vast youth population, we have the most AI enthusiastic population, you mentioned them, in the world. We're adopting it faster, AI faster than other nations. Now, let's examine the flip side then, Sridhar. India's demographic dividend depends on mass employment. What happens to coding, testing, documentation, analytics, customer support, which you are an expert in? Nobody better than you in this country today to tell us an answer to this. That when OpenAI, Google are aggressively building towards all of this, what happens to our original IT services model that was built on manpower scale?
Yeah. This is actually, my answer is somewhat nuanced here. In fact, Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei just 2 days ago in Bangalore mentioned the same point. He was asked, so what do software engineers do if AI writes all the code or most of the code? He said, and this is something that I agree with him, and I also thought the same thing, you get closer to the customer and solve the customer problem. So you become what in the industry they call them forward deployed engineers. That means, Republic TV needs IT systems, analytics, whatever. There will be people working closely with you to solve the problem quickly. The idea is it could be days to production, days to creating value, to delivering the value for you, rather than months or years that current IT systems take. This could actually accelerate the number of projects you will do. Like there are many places where a lot of things are in our wish list that I need to get done, but they never got done because of lack of resources, not just money, but also human resources to get it done. All of those may come to be now. You may have a couple of people doing all of this very rapidly for your own company, for example. So this is how I see the evolution. So it is not time to be pessimistic. What I would tell young people is, and this is true before AI, do you have solid grounding in your engineering skills, whichever area of engineering you are in, or you're a very good software engineer, or you're a very good computer science person, or you're a very good mechanical engineer, civil engineer, all of that. That is non-negotiable. And you only learn by doing. In fact, there's another thing that came up in the panel yesterday by our education ministry, was that a couple of people felt that AI is leading to erosion of skills. If you rely too heavily on AI, you are losing your critical thinking skills. So I would advise our youth to make sure that you have a solid grounding. It's the same thing we emphasize to kids. Just because you have a calculator, you are not allowed to escape from memorizing multiplication tables, right? It's the same with AI. AI is a better multiplication table. You don't want to outsource all your thinking to it. You want to be able to use it, but not abuse it where you let your own skills decline.
So
that's what I will tell you.
Are we going to transition from code writers to AI supervisors and business consultants? And if that is the case, are our engineering colleges prepared? Are Tier 2 and Tier 3 city graduates equipped for that transformation? Or will this benefit only, the shift to AI is benefiting only students or people from elite institutions? Will it widen inequality within the workforce?
These are very legitimate concerns. I worry about this all the time. And what industry has to play a role in this? Because it's yes, the colleges have to catch up on this. I think rural colleges are doing better, but they are doing a better job now than 10 years ago. This idea has seeped in that people have to be ready for the workforce, not just some academic passing exams. That idea, I think, is seeping in. But more than that, the industry also has to partner with these colleges and have training programs, skill development, so that the people coming out of colleges are ready for the workforce, ready with the skills. So it's actually both responsibility of both the academic institutions as well as the industry.
Therefore, broadly, are you advocating smaller, resource-efficient models as India's norm? Is that going to be the factor in the future also? Or will we have to change our strategy? I'm hearing you. I'm hearing what Ashwini Vaishnav has said here. I also heard what Ashwini Vaishnav said in Davos. I'm sure you saw him there when he gave it back to somebody who said, you are not tier 1 AI, and then he gave his own clear answer. So we are talking about, I would say, frugal AI, right? Or not austere AI, but frugal AI. Hardy, frugal AI. But can we afford to remain focused only on that? Does it risk technological overdependence later, 10 years down the line?
It's a really good question. The way the frontier labs are evolving, they are throwing a lot of resources at a problem that if they could take the time, if they could afford to take the time, they would solve it more efficiently. But efficiency is thrown to the winds because they stay number one in the pressure. You don't want pressure to stay number one. You can actually invent all of these more efficiently. It will take time, but it will achieve the same ends much more efficiently, which is why the Japanese auto industry is an excellent example where they came up with truly much more efficient engines and efficient cars because they took the time. They took the extra time to do it. They were not in a rush. So by actually being a little bit behind, it's not going to be that we will never catch up. It is that we may build more efficient solutions to these problems. I have seen this in my own professional life, this happen. So that's why I will bet on that idea.
There's so much public anxiety after this Khosla's comment. I know I know you're going to be very diplomatic about it, but there is, without mentioning Mr. Khosla, I don't want to make it a Khosla versus Vembu debate. That's not my intention. But IT companies recently have panicked a little bit. They are removing employees, migrating onto AI models. Is AI becoming a margin expansion strategy? Are companies reinvesting productivity gains into workforce upskilling, or are they quietly saying, let us remove headcount to just improve our profitability margin in the short term? What's your reading? What's your advice to these companies? I'm not naming any. You know exactly which, many Indian companies as well.
Yeah. See, recently I met a couple of people from an IT services company. What I was surprised by is the kind of project they were doing. They were helping an insurance company in the UK adopt AI tools for claims processing, all of that. And the work they were doing, actually, in fact, the reason I talked to them is I was actually interviewing them for our own AI teams. They were doing really good work. All of this talent is there in humble places doing really good work. I have seen people in GCCs in India helping their parent companies adopt AI. These are not tech companies. These may be in some other domains. Indian talent is helping them adopt AI for specific problems.
Right.
So that's why I think this is a little too broad a brush to say our IT services companies are caught in some old guard. They're not. They're actually also doing some really leading edge work, helping companies transform into how to adopt these AI tools, all of that. I've interviewed people like that myself. So which is why I'm going to say that I don't agree with this doom and gloom on this. At the same time, I also don't want to minimize the challenge. It is time to be vigilant. It's time to be on our toes. But if we are on our toes, if we kind of act like the world is going to end, maybe we'll stave off that and we will come out well.
My last question is on the hyperscalers, And again, you're a role model there, aren't you? I mean, you're someone who bootstrapped a company, made it so big, made it so effective. We feel so proud that there is one Indian company here taking on Microsoft, Salesforce, and doing it its own way. Now, major technology companies are investing a lot in India. Google says we'll invest 15 billion to establish a first AI hub. Microsoft followed with 17.45 billion commitment to expand cloud and AI infrastructure. Amazon, they're all in a race, with each other. Amazon is saying we'll put 35 billion. The target is longer, 2030. Now, these commitments are part of a broader investment pipeline. If hyperscalers pour billions into India, who really owns the strategic layer? The infrastructure host country, given the changes that have happened in the budget also proposed, or the model builders who control the algorithms, data sets, and the distribution?
Yeah, these are really good questions. These also go to the regulatory frameworks for all this. But first of all, these investments create construction jobs, a lot of infrastructure jobs, all of this in India. They also create the know-how and expertise. So from that point of view, these are really boon to the regional economies and, in a sense, the national economy as well. Second, these assets will be in India, subject to Indian law, one way or the other. They have to be, right? They cannot be subject to some other law. They are in our land here, in our shores. So that is why, long term, if there is someone trying to weaponize us, it is better to have the data centers here. Then Indian law will apply. So they cannot weaponize against us. I think those companies know that too. So they are coming not because I don't see it as they want to conquer India so much as they cannot live without the vast potential of the Indian market. China is shut out for them. India is the biggest potential market out there. So they want to be here. The 4 trillion economy could become 20 trillion, 30 trillion, 40 trillion in the next 20, 30 years. So they would rather be here. But what we have to make it clear to them is they are subject very much to Indian law, which I think our government is doing a good job reminding them of that, but they have to be reminded of that. And I think once we strike that balance, I would be, I say I'm a nationalist. At the same time, I want these companies, I would rather that they be here and operate here than operate elsewhere and just sell to us. So
absolutely. Well, I think that's as clear and direct an answer as possible. Well, I think this 20-25 minute conversation will help clear a lot of doubts in the minds of people. What would you say to a 25-year-old about AI and its potential on their life?
First, experiment with these tools. Don't just read about them. Don't just study them, but actually go learn how to use them and play with them. So even pay for some of the small subscription, because some of the best models are only if you pay them. Also play with the free models, all of that, the Chinese models, everything. Get to learn their strengths, their weaknesses, how to get the most out of them. Those skills will be very valuable because you may be able to help some company somewhere, who immediately needs to get on these and they don't have the talent pool for it, you can teach them. That would be a job for you. So that's why I say learn, learn, learn. That's what I tell my people too.
Fantastic. That's very practical advice. I cannot thank you enough for doing this. This has been a very useful session, very, very timely. Please enjoy the rest of the OpenAI, the whole AI Impact Summit. And I look forward to talking to you soon again, Sridhar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I have with me this evening Ajay Bagga, I think one of the best macro voices in the country. Umakant Soni is co-founder of Bharat1.ai. And Ratun Lahiri is a deep tech investor. She's senior advisor at Unicorn India Ventures, recently set up a 600 crore fund with Professor Kamakoti at IIT Madras. Subrangshu Singh is a business leader, and Professor Mausam is founding head of the Yardi School of Artificial Intelligence in IIT Delhi. Okay, so let me start with you, Umakant. You're in the sector. We can't afford to be techno-pessimists. If we treat AI like a threat, then we'll regulate ourselves into stagnation. But this fear has become real, especially after Vinod Khosla's statement that all jobs will go away in a few decades, and AI jobs are all, AI is finished, IT is finished, BPO is finished, everything's finished. What is your take, Umakant?
Yeah, so I've been in AI for the last 16 years. We were building chatbots in 2009-10. When I set up a venture fund focused on AI, we invested in 15 companies. So I've seen and looked AI very closely over the years. And one thing, let me tell you, and of course, all these interesting discussions come up when people have to raise money for their companies or themselves. Because AI, even though we are calling them foundational models, these models are not foundational yet. In fact, if you disagree with me, I would actually encourage all of you to ask whatever chat module that you're using to draw a picture of India, and you'll be surprised with the result that you get. And that will just convince you that these models are far, far away from whatever we call it, AGI or artificial general intelligence, which could be equivalent to a human intelligence. So in some sense, these models are smart, they're brilliant in some areas, but they're also quite stupid in other areas as well. And that's why what we have is not AGI, but AJI, artificial jagged intelligence. Now, to fill the gaps wherever they are not working well, you need human in the loop. And I don't see that going away. So I feel that these job announcements are interesting because companies are raising money and they want to justify the valuations. But I think they're a bit premature because AI is not there yet from that fundamental sense. So what is going to happen and what I feel is going to really play out is on three fronts. One, if you look at World Economic Forum, they suggest clearly that you're going to have 170 million new jobs. 170 million new jobs, especially for people who are able to adapt to AI and change their workflows, right? Of course, 92 million jobs will be churned away, but there is going to be disruption in the job market. And as I think Sridhar was pointing out, India is relatively young. So those 170 million jobs, if we are young and we are able to learn the new way of doing things, could be headed India's way. So it could be that we could actually take rapid advantage of that. The second perspective, which is actually very important to understand, is that we've hardly digitized the world. In fact, less than 7% of the whole world is softwareized or is digitized right now. So the data is not digital yet. So what is going to happen is that as the cost of digitization will come down, more and more industries will get digitized, right? So what I see, in fact, is going to happen in the next 10 to 15 years. A lot of new jobs will actually come up in which you are actually digitizing these industries. And I think that is where the young workforce of India could be very, very interesting. And maybe that could actually allow us to really leapfrog.
But
for that to happen,
want to stay focused on the job issue, Umakant. And I want to go to Professor Mausam, because you've also been in this for some time, Professor. See, our biggest problem in our country, our concern is employment, right? We have one of the youngest workforces in the world. We have 65-70% of the population below the age of 35. And every year, millions are now entering the labor force. In that context, I wanted to just get your big perspective. Because when you have these statements made like Vinod Khosla has made, and you've heard both Vinod Khosla and Sridhar Vembu, they're coming with different perspectives. Which one do you lean towards?
See, whenever something like this, a disruption like this happens, people often take extreme views. One is a techno-optimist view and one is the techno-pessimist view. You started out by saying that we can't afford to be techno-pessimist. But why don't we take a techno-realist view? We should figure out, what is the right path, where it makes sense and where it doesn't make sense. So as a case in point, I agree. Khosla has been saying actually not just IT and BPO jobs. He has been saying 80% jobs gone in 5 years. And Bill Gates himself has been saying that in 10 years, all the doctors and teachers are going to go away. And in parallel, Sam Altman says it's an AI bubble. And, Jensen Huang says that AI only augments. I think the answer is going to be somewhere in the middle. For example, if you're a US truck driver, it is possible that in 10, 15 years, you will not have a job anymore. There may be some places where things are easier to automate. Umakant also talked about vision, right? And the fact that it can't draw a picture of India. But the counterpoint to that is that it can actually talk very well. Talk as in it can write very well. It can understand what we are saying. So the textual processing is pretty amazing for where we are today. So there will be places where it would do a great job. And there would be places where it would not do a great job. And we need to figure out where we can afford to use AI, where we should use AI as augmenter, and where we should use AI as and not use AI, for example, if it's like a total doctor situation and it's a critical, life-threatening emergency, maybe AI is not ready yet. Maybe the cost of hallucination can be very high. I'm sure you are aware of the Air Canada case where, the Air Canada actually gave wrong advice. The chatbot gave wrong advice to the user and user filed a lawsuit and won the lawsuit because they said it was a case of, a deliberate or negligent misrepresentation. And this is because AI hallucinated, gave incorrect information. So the cost of errors, when they are high, we are probably not ready to use AI yet. Again, another example is when a self-driving car from Tesla crashed into a truck, a white truck, which was very clearly visible just because the car thought that white truck was actually white cloud. It is silly by a human standard, but maybe not silly by the AI standards. So my point is, there is going to be a lot of job loss. There is going to be a lot of new job creation, and we can talk about where the job creation is going to be. I think we need to be realists and think about where it makes sense and where doesn't it make sense to use it.
But these companies, like you mentioned Sam Altman, they keep changing their position. These tech pros have no consistency. Sam Altman is going all gung-ho right now about India is the center, India is the world, India is outpacing the world. The same Altman came and ran down India about 2.5 to 3 years back. He said it's hopeless for India to compete with us on our models. So, he keep changing their line. However, my question is
politically correct also.
Yeah, but from a perspective of an investor, Ratun, you're a very well-established deep tech investor. Profitability and margin economics will matter. These larger questions, do they really matter? Do they concern, you, for example? Does it concern you, the larger issues? Or would you, investors and companies, simply look at the economics of the business rather than the social impact?
Well, we are a commercial venture capital fund. So clearly we look at the economics of the business, except that in India, most of our businesses, in fact, almost all our, portfolios have a huge social impact. It's just that it's just the nature of the country we are. I just want to say a couple of things. India has benefited from every tech wave. Artificial intelligence, AI will be no different. IT services, 1990s, created millions of jobs. Mobile plus internet, 2000s, startups, digital commerce. Digital public infrastructure, UPI, Aadhaar, ONDC, huge financial inclusion, to state just some of the benefits. And I firmly believe that AI is just the next productivity layer. In fact, India has never lost jobs because of technology. We became a global tech powerhouse because we embraced it early. And one of the biggest things going for us is our demographic profile. where 65% of the population is below the age of 35. I mean, which country, and I spend, a lot of my time, of my calendar year, abroad. Which continent in the world, has a kind of tech embracement, that India has? You go outside, even today, if I walk outside, a tender coconut, vendor, with just 100 coconuts on a broken cart, is able to accept digital payment. In a country like this, how can we be scared, of AI? And as an investor, let me tell you, AI has become a buzzword now, but our companies, our deep tech companies, have embraced AI much before it became a buzzword. We have an excellent company called Olive, that brought about enormous financial inclusion. They've just closed an enormous Series B funding round now. We've been invested in them from our very first fund, and they had built staggering AI, infrastructure in their whole thing. Now it has become a buzzword. We've seen them over the years. Another company called Securitech, in cybersecurity, same story. So we just do things our way. And I don't think AI will eliminate work. It will just change the nature of work. That's what I firmly believe in.
Yeah, so in this debate, I'm not looking at the efficacy of our models or the technology, but rather the immediate social impact. So, Ajay, where do you lean on this? World Economic Forum has given us a very cozy perspective that 170 million new jobs will be created, 14% of today's employment, and the number of jobs that are to be displaced is much less than the number of jobs which are to be created. Would you go by that, or would you go by a different gut feel on this debate?
Yeah, Arnab, one thing I know for sure, that this cohort of companies who are hyperscalers, which you mentioned.
Yeah. Just froze there, the link. I'm sure it's going to come back.
Got $11 billion of revenue as a result. So what is the incentive? If you have to understand the intention, you have to understand where somebody is coming from, you have to look at the incentive. Somebody spending $700 billion is going to talk up the technology and its impact only, Arnab. And you see, as they go in for more and more funding rounds, they keep on hyping up. The free models are about 1 year behind, and now they're saying all of you go ahead and pay $20 a month and take our new models, which are still very primitive if you have to use as a professional service firm. A bank would not try them offhand. You would need an Indian IT service company to be sitting in the middle to make sure that financial integrity is maintained. So a lot of hype, Arnab, a lot of outlier positions these guys take. Elon Musk, for example, is saying all jobs will be over, don't save for your retirement. He's not been right on a lot of these things. We will see if Mars ever happens in his lifetime. He's done very well. He's brought rockets back. He's done great work, but all his outlier predictions have not come true. For India, I'm quite optimistic because we have built $5 trillion out of the 25 trillion of India in the next 25 years. So we are at the ground floor. We are very flexible. We can change. The situation is not all rosy because we have a demographic disaster of very unskilled people, unwilling to learn, unwilling to come into the global supply chain as well. You have lakhs of people who are very good and who are in the top 1%.
Just explain that, because you differ from the conventional view of the demographic dividend there. Explain that a bit.
Look all around, Arnab. Our education, what we are really producing from the education, those people are not hireable. You look at, you want construction labor, look at our productivity. Even a BPO productivity in India is about 1/20th an East European GCC or BPO. An automobile productivity is about 1/20th. Our farm productivity is about 1/10th. So we are very much behind on the productivity curve, on the skill curve. And the dangerous trend that's happened in the country is the freebies. So people are not willing to go up the curve. When China grew from 2000 to 2017, once it entered WTO, they moved from 2.5 trillion to 20 trillion. Arnab. There was no China. There was no Vietnam. Now we are not able to compete on a Bangladesh on a textile, for example.
This is
your
issue is of competitiveness, which is right. I was saying on yesterday's program, Ajay, I did a program on a tragic incident where a young man died while somebody else was making reels. It just gives me a thought. Suppose China was a country where the youth were doing what they were doing in India, which is sitting and making reels to earn a few dollars. That's the depth. It's an impact of the digital economy and also tons of subsidies on the other. Then it would have a social impact. We need to be cautious at that level. So, Brangshu, which way do you lean on this debate?
Arnab, I'm of the view that we must go with the hard facts, and I don't believe we should be hopeful about the rosy future. You see, there's a well-known law called the Amara's law, which says every single time we tend to overestimate technology's impact in the short run and underestimate in the long run. I think where negative impact is concerned, it's the other way around where AI is concerned. Now, let me just present some simple figures to you. The net addition of headcount in the Indian IT industry last year was 2,500. 2,500. Campus recruitment has ground to a virtual halt, and companies that were known for cradle-to-grave employment are leading the layoffs. So therefore, there is something which is terribly wrong about the model which had millions of people on the bench. And by the way, this is not unique to India. If you go with the latest data that Challenger, Gray and Christmas has put out in the US, 245,000 layoffs. The single largest contributor is the impact of AI, followed by Doge. So the point is, yes, there will be upgradation, there will be skill addition, but the immediate future is deterministic.
But you are using
an American future is speculative.
You are looking at it from an American prism. Will that work here? Ratun raised her hand. Ratun.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say this. The era of lifetime employment of our parents is over. It has been over in the West for a very long time, and I've spent more than 3 decades, living abroad. So I have seen that. So in our lifetime, in my generation, in the West, by the late 40s, early 50s, you were on your own, and then you had to build a portfolio career. In my children's generation, I'm pretty certain that it's going to move even further backwards. By mid-30s, early 30s, they will have to build portfolio careers. It's just the nature of the job. We adapt, we change. Darwin's law.
So we have to adapt to survive.
Adapt to survive.
Yeah. There are 40 crore Indians who are not yet 20 years of age. And to Mr. Bagga's point, they're not skilled enough.
Okay, so Ajay Bagga raised his hand.
Arnab, there's, for example, China, at the rate they are growing the population, it's a degrowth already starting. Korea, Japan, Russia. Russia, Arnab, wants 20 lakh workers. We should have been exporting those workers to Russia. Leave aside the AI, but we have sent 71,000. Not 20 lakh, which is what
Ajay,
they want.
Eternally optimistic out there. I saw Umakant raise his hand. I'm running short of time, but Umakant, briefly, yes.
So fundamentally, if you look at it, our brain, human brain is magical. It operates at 20 watts, okay? To do something similar, we needed earlier when ChatGPT came, 20 megawatt of power, right? Now it is coming down. It is probably close to, a megawatt or so. But it's still, it's almost like 1,000 times more, right? So if you just look at power, nothing else, right? So human brain is still way more efficient than any AI we are putting out there. Fundamentally, any combination of human with machine will be cheaper than purely machine alone.
I like that. I like that very much. I like that very much. Like all of you, I'm frightened of being unemployed. I may be unemployable, but I should not be unemployed. I thank you very much, Ratun, Umakant, Ajay, Subhrangshu, and Professor Mausam for joining me on that brief but interesting chat. Ladies and gentlemen, today I've done a 2-hour program on a subject I don't know very much in detail about, but we tried to bring you different perspectives. Tell me what you think. Hope to see you with a big story and a big exclusive tomorrow. Good night and goodbye.
Quick breather.
ये है सीक्रेट रेसिपी MDH का जीरा सिप जल जीरा मसाला।
सिप जीरा सिप MDH का जल जीरा